Welcome to Dub Nation, your hub for everything Utah Warriors of Major League Rugby. I'm Jarom Jordan alongside Banksy. Everybody refreshed and ready to go for the final 10 games in the next 11 weeks of Major League Rugby, baby.
A bye week is good, and to get it this far into the season, even better. A lot of guys getting healthy. A lot of guys now on 2 weeks rest and chomping at the bit to get back at it for another 80 minutes.
It started last week when we did the show, and a lot of the team was hanging out at Sean Pittman's house in the backyard. There was a compelling game of spike ball. Thomas Tuivasa was too scared to call out his teammates for being too loud. It was very compelling and rich. So excited that everyone's back and we're ready to rock for a big game with Old Glory DC, which we will preview coming up. We are live on the Utah Warriors Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube accounts. We're on demand on KSLSports.com, the KSL Sports app, the KSL TV app, and rebroadcast Thursday nights on ESPN 700 and 960. Give us a like, share the show, follow the Utah Warriors on social media. If you have a comment, fire away. We'll try to get to some of those through the show, and we're handing out some swag per the norm, baby.
It's always good to get free Warriors gear for a Big Dub Nation member, and if you want this beautiful Suns Out, Guns Out training tank, all you have to do is follow and share the show, retweet the post on Twitter, share it on Facebook to all your friends. Make sure you do that for your chance to win. I mean, it's 72 degrees outside and sunny right now. You need a new tank top in your life, so why not make it a Utah Warriors one?
Listen, what other team in Major League Rugby is handing out the Belichick hoodie, the Suns Out, Guns Out? You know what I mean? Like, the Utah Warriors continue to bring it on that. I just got to work on actually getting some guns so that I can wear that shirt, but that's another story.
Fans in MLR, that's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely. Okay, what's on the show rundown. No game off the bye week, but we'll tell you what happened around Major League Rugby and how the Warriors stack up through 7 weeks. We'll preview the matchup with Old Glory DC at home this Saturday on national TV and radio, of course. We'll talk with 3 guests today. Let's go. Loaded. Brandon Sparks, Director of Rugby, about Pro Days coming up. Emily Harker of the Warriors Rugby Foundation. And Owen Power, President of Utah Youth Rugby. All 3 of these people have some awesome things to say. And today's Rugby 101 discusses the finer points of the ruck or breakdown.
The Junior Warriors program, another big sign of the commitment that the Utah Warriors have to our community and the traditions of rugby here. If you want to be part of that Junior Warriors program, it's just $25. It includes a clinic 2 hours before games with the Utah Warriors players and 2 tickets to that home match. If you want to get your little Warrior in to rugby and get them exposed to the game and let them meet some of their favorite players and just toss the ball around, you can sign up at warriorsrugby.com.
I'm still in shock that it's $25. Like $25 for 2, seats is going to be a fantastic deal, let alone that experience. So, yeah, sign up for that. It'll be awesome. Okay, Week 7 MLR scores. Normally recap right here. No game to recap. So the first of 2 bye weeks happened. Well-deserved weekend off after a big win, 50-43 against Houston a week and a half ago. So what happened around the league? Let's recap it. New England beat San Diego 33-17. This was a doubleheader in the Memorial Coliseum there in LA. Free Jacks scored 3 tries in the first 15 minutes. San Diego scored all of its points in the second half, but it was too little too late. A bonus point win for the Free Jacks.
I mean, what a spectacle. What a great moment for rugby in that iconic stadium at the LA Coliseum with so many other great sporting events that have been there with the football, the Olympics, the Rose Bowl being played in there. So many awesome moments. To have back-to-back rugby games in there was huge. And some good rugby on display. Full credit to New England for going on the road coast to coast and putting it to San Diego.
Okay, LA beat Old Glory DC 47-17, the second part of that doubleheader. 6th straight bonus point win for LA. They are on fire. Like, again, is anyone going to touch them? 40-plus in every game. 5 tries in the first half. It was 33-3 at halftime. Old Glory DC scored Jason Robertson on a penalty goal, and then 33 straight from the guilty.
I mean, to the surprise of no one, the LA Guiltinis ran up another 40 points. Vandermew is a headache for every team that they face. They've added some more players to their roster that are just going to continue to bolster them as they get deeper into the season. There's a ton of experience on that side. And, doesn't matter if you bought it or if you built it. They're there and they're playing good rugby in LA.
Dominating so far, and you'll see that in the standings. Now that most people have caught up to the games played with them, except for San Diego in the West. NOLA Gold beat Toronto 22-14 in Louisiana. NOLA was down 14-0 and then scored 22 in the second half to win.
Kind of surprising that NOLA was able to hang it on Toronto that way. Toronto been a form team in the last couple of weeks. Was top of the table in the East, and you'll see how that loss shook up the entire Eastern Conference.
And then last but not least, Rooney, Rugby United New York, beat Seattle at Starfire 23-21. Again, Seattle led 21-6 at halftime, and then Rooney stormed back in the second half. Dylan Fawcett, the Butcher, and Kyle Sumption, former BYU Cougar, were good off the bench. Game-winning score in the 76th minute late.
It was just great 80 minutes of rugby from Rooney. They didn't get the first half they wanted. We saw some good structure, some better play from Seattle with Pate Tualebuka there as the interim head coach. Starting to put stuff together, but you got to play all 80 minutes in Major League Rugby, and sometimes a little more, as we found out, Warriors fans in our histories. So if you can't put it together for all 80 minutes, you're not going to come away with a win in this league. It's too competitive.
Okay, let's check out the standings. In the West, the LA Giltinis, +9 right now. Wow, on Austin. So Adam Gilchrist, his two teams, combining for 51 points so far. Utah Warriors 3-3, 19, sitting in third. Again, the top two teams in each conference go to the playoffs. So in the hunt, San Diego sitting at 13 points, Houston 12, and then Seattle's got issues, certainly, 7 points. The only win is against the Utah Warriors, so that's the one that got away for sure. What do you think of the Western standings right now?
Nothing's really changed over the last 2 weeks. LA is exactly where we thought they would be. Austin still hanging tough. We really have a chance now to put our fate and our destiny back into our own hands with a big performance this week and hopefully retake that number 2 spot away from Austin. There's some space in there between the Warriors and San Diego with a game in hand there to be played. San Diego having already played 7 matches, the Warriors about to play their 7th. So, there's a little breathing room, but not much as you look at the top half of that conference standings.
What sticks out, and it's not on the graphic per se, but I'll just tell you, is the point differential. That's a sustainable metric of success. LA is +146. The next closest team in the West is Austin at +53. The Utah Warriors +16, which kind of makes sense given that the Warriors are 3-3. So, holy shnikes, LA is running it up on everybody. Okay, they're the Steve Spurrier running it up 70-14, and everybody in the 90s with the Florida Gators. Okay, Eastern Conference. Rooney, 19. NOLA, 19. Toronto, 16. The Free Jacks, 16. Atlanta, 16. Old Glory DC, 13. It is going to be a tight race in the East, man.
It's tight already. And it's been the story of the East all season long. Who wants to win it? We're looking at 4-2, 3-2, 3-4, 3-3, 3-3. I don't know if it's parity so much as it is inconsistency with a lot of these teams. I expected Rugby ATL to be a lot better at this point. I expected Toronto to be a lot better at this point. I knew Rooney was going to be competitive, and I think they've caught some lucky breaks with how the East is shaking out to find themselves in the first position right now. But 19 points leads the West. That puts them in a tie for third, probably. Well, on points differential, that puts them in 4th place in the West. But they lead the Eastern Conference in this situation. So the difference in the level of competition between the two conferences, I think, has been significant this year.
And like you said, so Rooney is tied with NOLA. NOLA's +19 in point differential. Rooney is -41. It's basically whoever's played LA, and I can't remember if Rooney's played LA, but I'm guessing they have because they're -41 in point differential. That's what happens. That just gets taken down. So East certainly tightly contested there. We added this last week. Utah Warriors players in the MLR top 10 in stats. So let's walk through it. Hagen Schulte, 2nd in points in the league. Awesome, 58. 3rd in conversions with 15. 5th in penalty goals with 7. He continues to be a leader. And, there are a few MVPs on this team. Hagen's certainly right there.
It's great to have these team leaders as well as these league leaders here for the Utah Warriors. Mikey having an absolute fantastic week this past week, and that's showing there with his big bump up in the tries. So crucial key playmakers for the Utah Warriors showing out and showing their quality across the MLR.
Then Mikey Teo tied for 4th in tries with 5. I mean, he could have had a couple more. He had a few try assists. He had 3, I think, against Houston 2 weeks ago. So he's exactly what I was hoping he'd be for the Utah Warriors.
Well, I think he's finally settled into a position, especially with the team, where he's now comfortable. Obviously, chemistry takes time. I think the additional weeks training with Mika Kruse have been crucial. I'm excited to see what happens when Cliven Logan comes back healthy. The lineouts are out, and I think our back three pairing is electric again for this week, for this matchup. They're going to have to continue to be dynamic, but this back line looks pretty lethal for the Utah Warriors this week as we face DC.
I'm excited to see it. Let's talk about it. Utah Warriors hosting Old Glory DC Saturday, 8 Mountain on FS2 on TV. And then, of course, on the radio, ESPN 700 and 960 at Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman, Utah. If you want to attend in person, warriorsrugby.com. And the state of Utah, lifting some restrictions on Friday. There certainly will be some conversation from the Warriors about what that means for the crowd. So stay tuned to our social media for more on that. Let's break down Old Glory DC. So 13 points last in the East, as we just mentioned. That'd be fourth in the West. They started with a tie at NOLA. Everyone loves a tie, right? Beat Rugby ATL. Lost by 21 to Toronto when the Arrows finally woke up. Lost by 4 at Rooney. Tough place to play, although that sort of rotates every week. Beat New England by 13. That's a game that Utah Warriors lost. Lost by 30 to LA. So kind of been up and down for Old Glory DC. But they are a team, like every week in MLR. We've seen it. Seattle has 7 points. They've won in Harriman. Like, you got to bring it every week.
You absolutely have to bring it every week. And they've got playmakers like Danny Tusitala and Threaten Palamo on this team that are weapons if they're given enough space and the opportunity. Tusitala scored some pretty electric tries early in this season. Threaten Palamo been an absolute machine throughout his career, obviously in some of the waning years, but take nothing away from him. He wouldn't make a starting squad in the MLR if he wasn't fit and ready for action.
The former Utah Youth Rugby player and football player. So good to have Threaten back home, right? That'll be awesome. And I'm old enough to where when Threaten was at the U, I called a couple Wasatch Cups between BYU and Utah with Threaten in there. So excited to have him back in town. Of course, the luscious locks on display, right? That'll be he and Lance Williams. It might be hard to know which guy's in the ruck there for a sec. You mentioned Danny Tusitala, one of the more dynamic scrum halves in Major League Rugby. He is very fun to watch. Quick ball, strong, can make a play. He's tied for fourth with 4 try assists. He's a very fun player. That matchup with Michael Baska, I think, is going to be one to watch.
It's a contrasting set of styles, definitely between the nines this week. And Tusitala has a lot of flair. He plays really quick. You've always got to make sure that you know where he is around the ruck, because he will find those little gaps, and he likes to kind of deke and dunk his way through traffic. And if there's a weakness around that ruck defense, Danny will find it. He's a Kiwi kid, Samoan heritage. He basically was born with a rugby ball in his hands, and it shows in his experience and his playmaking ability on the field.
Do you think anyone's done that where they put a couple of here's a football and they just take a picture with the baby, and then they're literally the ball was in the bit. No, I don't think so either. A few other players to watch.
I don't doubt for a second. It's happened, and it happens often, and it will continue to happen. Rugby is life in New Zealand.
I should have done that with my son. He loves baseball. I know your kid plays soccer. Yeah. Next time. Okay, the captains, Mungo Mason, flanker, outside center, Threaten Palamo, of course. Jason Robertson, the fly half. They use him a lot. 8th in the league in conversions. Tied for first with penalty goals with 9. So if they can take the points, they take it a lot. And then 7th in points, 43. So keep an eye on 10, Jason Robertson.
They need to make Jason Robertson more of a factor if they're going to have continued success. You can have Tusitala be your source of offense. He's great in the broken plays and in those mixed moments, but you've got to have that structured ball through your back line. And that starts with Robertson. He's been good in moments. He's going to have to be really good for them for 80 minutes. And I fancy the skills of his opposite number over what he's brought to the MLR so far this year.
Yeah, the scrum half matchup will be fun. The fly halves, of course. The centers will be good. We should mention Callum Gibbons, the flanker, was on the America's Rugby News first 15 of the week as well. So that's Old Glory DC. Utah Warriors coming up on Saturday on FS2 and ESPN 700 and 960. You can join us in person, of course. Get your tickets on warriorsrugby.com, Banksy. So let's go to games this week. All 6 teams in action. Let's go. No buys. Everybody's playing. Suit up, baby. Saturday, Houston at NOLA. Who you got?
NOLA by 7 in this one. Houston's been better, but NOLA, I think, is the form team in the East right now, and they're playing in New Orleans, which I think will make a difference.
Yeah, and the fact that Houston also had a bye week, like the Warriors, they're coming off of 43 points scored, but no win. That's yeah. The Warriors survived that one. Austin at New England. That's a fun one.
That should be a fun one, but I still see Austin by probably 10 in this game. The physicality of the Gilbroni is going to be too much for New England.
Again, the Warriors win at Austin to open the season, still looking really, really good. Rugby ATL at Toronto. Let's see, they're calling this the Fire and Ice Cup, I believe. Little Game of Thrones action there, maybe.
Where that name came from, or who thought that was a good idea to call it a Fire and Ice Cup? That sounds like it should be awarded at a figure skating event, not a rugby match. Rugby ATL struggling right now. They started the season early. Toronto, I think last week was just a setback, and this is basically a home and home for both of these teams, with Toronto being based out of Atlanta. So I'm picking Toronto in this one. It's going to be a close game, though. Toronto by 3.
Old Glory DC against Utah. We mentioned LA Guillotines at Rooney. This is going to be obviously the furthest that LA could go. Will the travel have any impact in this game? And will LA score 40+ again?
They're gonna. I don't know if they'll score 40, but they'll score 30 pretty easily. This is a top of the table match. This is the number 1 team in the East versus the number 1 team in the West right now, with LA being on the road. I don't think it matters where LA plays. They're gonna hang 30 on you, so it's gonna be tough for Rooney to keep up in a drag race there.
Okay, and San Diego at Seattle. This is a rematch of the last 2 MLR championship games, but certainly these two teams not in the same situation as those two at this point of the season in 2021.
But if ever there was a rivalry in MLR that mattered, it's through the first 3 seasons of Major League Rugby, it's been San Diego and Seattle in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
I give Seattle the edge in this one, playing at home, but it's a close one. It's going to take all 80 minutes, and the Seawolves will win that one by 3.
Okay, that should be interesting. Those are the Week 8 matchups, and the Utah Warriors continue to scour the country for the next generation of Warriors.
Utah Warriors are holding pro days in June and July. You don't have to come to us. We're coming to you, America. So join us in Tucson, Arizona, St. Louis, Missouri, Philippi, West Virginia, right in Michigan, and of course right here in our very own backyard in Salt Lake City. All attendees must be MLR college draft eligible. If you want to register, find out exactly when and where we're going to be and get more information, go to warriorsrugby.com.
Okay, and the man leading the charge on that, and a huge part of what's going on with the Utah Warriors is our first of 3 guests on the show today. His name is Brandon Sparks. He's the director of rugby for the Utah Warriors. Brandon, welcome to the program. Super excited about what the Warriors are doing across the country, and obviously you're doing this, amidst the season. So, what's life like right now as you try and organize this?
When you add on a competitive season that's happening during a pandemic, during COVID testing, as well as, trying to fortify our players, our player ranks into the future. Yeah, it's a bit challenging. I would say we're living life at a difficulty of 11 out of 10, but it's a welcome challenge. It's fun. I mean, it's what's unique about this. And it's just the next evolution in our growth as a league and as a team to do these things in season. So yeah, we're looking forward to the challenge and the new learning experience that await us around every corner.
I don't know if that was meant to be a Spinal Tap reference, but I really liked it regardless. Tell us about the decision to go to Arizona, Missouri, West Virginia, Michigan, I understand, with your connections there previously, and obviously Salt Lake City. That's all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at the draft, look back at the draft, there was 24 players drafted last year. Of those 24, 15 have made an appearance so far in the actual MLR season. Of that, 2, of the 6 undrafted free agents, like Connor Buckley, Cam Dobson, 4 or 6 of them have played, as well as 4 or 6 of them have played. So, the leading into last year, you heard a lot of the experts say that the draft probably wasn't a good idea, and it might take a year or 2 for these players to get to the level, so on and so forth. But half a season into it, it's proven that it's not true. But if we look around at the regions of our country, you see that each region has a very unique blend of its rugby style. The East Coast is very Northern Hemisphere influence, the West Coast is very Southern Hemisphere influence, and then in between is usually a mixed bag of physicality, flair, and just brute force. So, we kind of wanted to hit these areas that weren't entirely off of the beaten path, but just further enough away that we were maybe going to get a look at some different players that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. Like at Brighton, we're going up to Legacy Rugby Academy up there. Meanwhile, you got Bowling Green, Western Michigan, that's been an extremely good D1AA program. You have Davenport, Notre Dame, all those teams that are right there within, a stone's throw of Brighton. Salt Lake, again, you have BYU, but we're also going to pull from the U as well as the surrounding states. There's kids already talking about coming down from Boise State, Idaho, so on and so forth. Out there in Tucson, again, James Afali, who is on our team here. He was from Arizona. There's quite a popular player base down there, especially with ERA being based out of there. All of those places, I think we just need to get into and look and see what's around in those regions. So yeah, those are kind of the draws of those locations and why we picked them.
I've been really impressed with what the Utah Warriors have done to try and create a sustainable model of almost like in baseball, like minor league development players, right? The selects, of course, was a smash hit in the fall. And now this pro day essentially it feels like identify potential draft picks and or free agents later. So how successful is that right now? Do you feel like it's working?
Yeah, I mean, it's you're going to go into any place, and Bill Polian, who put together the great Buffalo teams in the '90s, he had a great saying that if you have a draft of 7 rounds, and of those 7 rounds, 3 years later, 66% of those players are still on your roster, you would consider yourself an elite GM. Which that's the same thing. We're going to go out there and we're going to look and we're going to see. And one thing to make everybody aware of is we're actually just going to open it up to everybody now. Draftee players that are eligible, we're really going to strongly encourage to attend these. But we were hoping to see rugby being played a little bit more around this country, just to get a look at the club scene. But with that not being the case, we're going to open up these pro days to everyone now, because we want to see what's out there. And like if you look at even what Houston is doing, like Jake Hidalgo was on that HTX team, 3 months ago, and then a year ago he was playing for the Chicago Lions. So those players are out there, and we have to be, as a Utah Warriors, we have to be proactive in going out and finding these players. But yeah, I mean, you saw the selects, you've seen the guys that kind of progressed up through the selects into the top squad, like James Mackey, who I feel is kind of an outlier after being, Rudy Schultz Award nominee last year, played in the selects, played in Joe Mano, who, I consider probably the most physical wing in this league, came through there. There's a ton of guys that we can use that. There's even more guys that we've just released back into the club scene, but we're tracking into next year and the year after to see how they develop, see if there's a chance for them. So yeah, it's been successful, but the people that sit there and say, "Oh, there's no rugby talent in America," are liars and wrong. To put it directly. So yeah, I mean, we just have to be proactive, go out there and find these guys, and then get them in here. We want to be we want to be a team of Americans, and this is the first step in doing that.
And there's certainly a nice mix, right, of young talent and talents that's been around, and guys in the twilight of their career that contribute at a high level. And it's a long season too. Like you need a lot of good players. I did want to highlight. You mentioned James Mackey, who's played off the bench. Joe Mano has become a starter depending on the week. Thomas Tuivau, I believe, played with the selects. Who else am I missing that has gone from the selects to making the 23 for at least a game so far?
You could look at, Lance was actually down there to do his rehab stint from his ACL last year. Same with Tucci.
Derek Ellingson. I think
Derek
that's on there.
Yeah, it's now you're kind of putting me under the pump to remember who was there and doing.
There were so many. I think it's been successful. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of our guys were also there training. Like Bailey Wilson was there training with those guys, helping raise the standards of the players that are there. as well as like, sharpening his sword for the season that he's in now. So yeah, almost a majority of those MLR guys cycle through there. Yeah, but I mean the draft picks all went through there, which was huge to the development. And same with like James, with both Jameses. So yeah, it was a good portion of guys,
How's life on the staff right now? Because I mean, it depends on how you want to set it up, but obviously with a 2-man coaching staff, and then you have been the selects coach slash assistant slash director of rugby slash you're just doing everything.
Yeah.
What's the office day like typically with you guys as you try and continue to compete at a high level, third in the West right now?
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, a lot of us we're up relatively early. I know that my day starts at 5 and usually doesn't end until around 10:30, 11 o'clock. I know that might sound like a lot, but it is. I've made my passion my profession, so I know how fortunate I am to do it. But yeah, we're usually up pretty early. We'll usually have a little meeting at 8 a.m. and then we'll go through the day planning. We're all in the same place at the same time around 2 p.m. And then from there, we're rocking and rolling all the way through the evening. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. As a staff, Sean and Sean are doing great. I've said it for a very long time. I think Sean Pittman, has earned an opportunity to be a head coach, and I'm excited to see him here. I think Sean Davies has a lot of qualities, a successful future head coach, given a little bit more experience. And I think that we're incredibly fortunate to be here together and doing something like this, and getting this boat rowing in the right direction.
Yeah, it's been awesome so far. And let's finish with this. For those who don't know, you actually had an MMA career in addition to playing rugby. So, were you better at MMA or rugby?
Definitely MMA. It was easy to only control one person trying to lay a lick on me. So yeah, I was always a little bit better at MMA. I think I had to work extremely hard at rugby. The best thing that ever happened to me when I joined MMA was they're like, "Oh, you need to stop going to the gym because we want you to be a little lighter." I was like, finally, I found my sport that I don't have to consume 7,000 calories a day and spend 4 hours in a weight room just to maintain the slight frame that I have now. So yeah, I would have probably said I've been a little bit better at MMA, but going to it later in life, I think I was 27 when I had my first fight, 26 and a half when I actually started to learn how to fight. Yeah, I think just a little bit of life experience allowed for that, where I was a functioning derelict for most of my 20s, and doing the rugby overseas and all of that at that age, there's a lot of temptations and challenges, if you will.
Well, congratulations on all the success. I know you're a busy dude, so we appreciate a few minutes talking about the pro days, which are open to everybody. That's great news. And then director of rugby, a lot's going on. So we'll see you Saturday at Zions Bank Stadium.
Yeah, take care, man. I'll see you soon.
Okay, that's Brandon Sparks, director of rugby for the Utah Warriors. Our next guest is running the Warriors Rugby Foundation. Her name is Emily Harker, and she now joins us on Dub Nation. Emily, fellow Coug like myself, you played, you coach some girls, and now you're trying to grow the game. So welcome to Dub Nation. How you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm waiting for Banksy to show up again, but other than that, I think everything's great. Okay, so you coach high school as well. The Provo Steelers girls narrowly lost the state semifinals, so you guys went super far, which is awesome. So,
Yeah.
So how'd you get started with the Warriors? And tell us more about the Warriors Rugby Foundation.
So I got started with the Warriors just towards the end of 2020. I had recently moved back to Utah, and I was kind of trying to figure out what to do next with my life. And the Warriors were looking for some people to kind of help with the ticketing side of things, and I jumped on with that, and kind of was a perfect fit just because I already loved rugby so much, and I've been a Warriors fan since day one. And then I got lucky enough that a couple months in, they were looking to go ahead and really push the foundation out, and I was able to transition into the position that I'm at now. So with the foundation, we just officially launched it and got a lot of things going with that. But the main goal of it is really just to expand rugby in Utah at all levels. With Brandon talking about how there's so much talent in the U.S. that we just don't find, we're looking to even grow that, like build that at the very bottom levels with our youth, and then provide opportunities where we can find that talent and give them opportunities, whether that be college or professional level through rugby. So that's kind of what we're looking to do at this point.
And that's awesome. And we've been running the promo and talking about it for a couple weeks, the Junior Warriors, which is like, I'm like, $25 for 2 tickets is a good deal, let alone the opportunity to meet the players. So what's that been like? Has that happened for home games, or is that, starting Saturday or later?
It starts this weekend, and we'll be doing 4 Junior Warriors clinics for the next 4 home games. And so it's an awesome opportunity. We've done it in the past and everyone's loved it. But it's 2 hours before the game. We have actual players that will coach that. So they're not interacting with random staff. They're interacting with our players that are on the field later that day. And so that's a really cool opportunity for, the kids, but that's for 5-year-olds to 14-year-olds. So it's a cool introduction to the sport. It's not scary because you can sign up for 1 clinic. You can sign up for all 4 if you want, whatever really works for you. But it's a nice ease into the sport. And so definitely everybody should jump on that. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's exciting. Okay. What other events are upcoming that you want people to know about?
So some of our biggest events that we have coming up in July 10th, the day of our home game, we'll be doing a old boys game as well, kind of to recognize the alumni in Utah, because Utah really has this depth and history of rugby. There's so many players that have come out of here and moved on and done so much with rugby, and we want to recognize that. And so we'll be doing an old boys game. We'll probably be doing a touch tournament that day as well, just for the alumni, really. And then later on in September, we'll be doing a rugby golf event, which has become pretty popular overseas as well as over on the East Coast.
Tell me more about rugby golf. I don't know anything about it.
Okay, rugby golf is, I don't know if you've ever seen like soccer golf, but basically you go to a golf course and you're given a rugby ball and you kick off as if you were to tee off, right? Just kick the ball. And then once you get to like the putting area, you can throw or you can chip kick it. And it's just the same idea as golf, right? Like try and get into the hole as low number of kicks as possible, but it's a little more fun because it's a rugby ball. So
yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, so we'll be doing that at Mulligan's golf course in September. So there'll be more information coming out on that and how people can sign up for it. And then also super exciting, at the very end of the year, we're November, December-ish, we'll be holding the first annual Utah Hall of Fame Gala. And so we'll be inducting the first few members.
Nice.
So that's also something to look forward to.
That's exciting. Wow, you guys are doing a ton. So much to take in. I got to get my 7-year-old to the Junior Warriors. I got to learn rugby golf.
Yeah,
I've got to attend the Utah Rugby Hall of Fame induction, which would be super exciting. That's amazing. Okay, so how do people get involved with the Warriors Rugby Foundation if they want to?
So we've kind of designed this donors club. It's called Warriors Circle. It's on our website. So if you go to our website with www.warriorsrugby.com, under the pathway tab, there's a foundation spot. And with this Warriors Circle, it's just, you choose what works for you, whether that's, a monthly subscription where you just throw in a little bit, or if it's just a one-time sponsorship, or even for businesses or corporates that are looking to be more involved. So you choose what works for you. And then with each of these things, there's little benefits that come along, whether it's a couple tickets and a merch discount, or shout outs for, our pro days in our academy, or even with our pathway sponsorship, you have a banner at our pathway events as well. And then the corporate ones, of course, a couple more benefits than that. But this is, really going to kickstart the foundation and all that we want to do. And the foundation, funds our entire pathway from junior warriors to our high school academy to our select squad, as well as making all these pro days available and any other camps and clinics we do out in the community. So this is an awesome way to be involved in the Warriors, but also be involved in growing rugby here in Utah.
Well, that's great, because I really like the way the Warriors are doing it. It's sustainable. It's going to last for a long time. We're going to see some young kids in a couple of years that will say, I went to a Junior Warriors clinic, and then I got involved in the pathway, and then I was on the selects, and then here I am playing in Major League Rugby. Like, that's going to happen in the next several years, which is super exciting. So, well, we're stoked about that. Thanks for the heads up on all that. We'll continue to push that out, and we appreciate your time, Emily.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's Emily Harker with the Warriors Rugby Foundation. Of course, go to warriorsrugby.com to learn more on that. And that's super awesome. Banksy, what the Warriors are doing to build the pathway from age 7 or 5 all the way up to the pros is pretty incredible with what Emily is doing. And then our what our next guest will tell us about as well.
You know, we've seen it as the Japanese model went professional. There were teams that came out of the gate and bought superstars. They paid for Australians. They paid for Kiwis. They bought European players to try and be competitive immediately. But the teams now that are doing really well in the Japanese Premiership are the teams that did what the Utah Warriors are doing. They invested in their club system. They tapped into the local community to build that grassroots of rugby. It's what happened when New Zealand rugby went professional. I happened to be there in New Zealand as it went professional, and it's by investing and building in these communities. It's by building junior warriors and getting kids involved in these clinics. It's super affordable for just about anyone. It's only $25. Chances are you've got that between the seat cushions of your car as you're driving home right now, right?
Yeah, I have like $50 in there. I need to dig that out. But
you might have to shake out some of the old French fries and goldfish crackers that are in there. But you know, there's probably, I mean, the nice thing is with a program like this, it's so easy to get kids exposed to rugby at the highest level. And the Utah Warriors have already shown the Pathway program to be so effective. We've got more Pathway and local players on our roster and playing for the first team than any other team in the league. And it's that commitment to our community and to the traditions that we have. It's our 4 pillars for the team that we really stand by. And this is putting your money where your mouth is by going out and investing in the future.
Okay, we want you to use the hashtag #MyWarriorSeat. There's some cool prizes available when you go to the games.
Tweet My Warriors Seat, and as you join us, 8 p.m. kickoff, by the way. Remember that time. It's been pushed from 7 to 8 o'clock. 8 p.m. kickoff as we take on Old Glory DC. You could win a super dope Warriors hat. Jarom's got a good one on. I've got last year's hat on. We have some of the best looking kit, and if you want it, tweet my seat. You can get hooked up for some free Warriors kit for the nation.
Okay, our third and final guest is Owen Power, the president of Utah Youth Rugby, who's doing some amazing things as well to grow the game in the Beehive State. We now welcome Owen to Dub Nation. Owen, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
We are stoked about what's going on with all levels of rugby in the state of Utah. Tell us what Utah Youth Rugby is up to, and we do have an exciting championship game coming up Saturday.
Oh, yeah, we got a big championship day coming up Saturday. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 7 games going on, and that's for kids in middle school, so 7th graders all the way up to the big guys in high school, the seniors and stuff. And, man, we've got some humdingers there. We've got a Genesis versus West Valley game at 5:30. That's going to be amazing. Genesis has really come out on their own, and they've actually beaten West Valley, one of the first teams to beat West Valley now in a number of years in this division. So Genesis #1 seed. I'm looking forward to that game. I think it's going to be tough, but it's going to be a biggie. And then following that, if that's not enough, we've got Harriman High School versus Olympus High School. I think Olympus has a little bit of an axe to grind here. I think they got beat in the regular season, so they want to get back, and take them out. But don't forget the girls. Just as your previous guest was talking about, Majestics, a brand new club here for high school girls, as the #1 seed. Get that, the #1 seed against the mighty United Girls Rugby Club, previous national champions. And so United is not going to want to let go of that state championship title that they earned back in 2019. So big day for us at the Regional Athletic Complex up in Salt Lake City.
It'll be incredibly exciting to see all of those games. And you've been such a great part of Utah Youth Rugby in the years that I've known you. And now to see all of this come together with professional rugby. Was this always the dream to have this kind of pathway? Because you've been such a great supporter of youth rugby, but there was really nowhere for these kids to go. You championed women's programs. You championed not just the club teams that we've had, but getting them into high schools. It's got to be exciting for you now to see all of this come together.
Of course, it's very exciting. I mean, a few years back, you never imagined to have a strong Major League Rugby going as we do today. And I remember one of the first things I said to Kimball when it kind of first launched, I said, man, we really need you to be successful. We need this league to take off, because that just takes rugby to a new level, right? It makes it a real thing. That was always one of my concerns when I got involved in Utah Youth Rugby. It needed to be a real thing, not just a pickup game in the park. And to have a major league events nationally, internationally broadcast. I mean, those broadcasts are going around the world, showcasing our talent. And now even more exciting to see the current captain of the Utah Warriors being a high school player that came through our ranks, and he's now captain of the Utah Warriors. That's just amazing to me.
Yeah, Bailey Wilson, United, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice. Okay, what resources does Utah Youth Rugby provide now that maybe you didn't a few years ago?
Well, we've actively tried to get into the community as much as what we can, and so over some years we've worked with some of the cities to offer rookie rugby and kind of like a flag deal. But I think the big thing that's really grown is our Little League. There we start with kids in kindergarten, and they go all the way through to middle school, and then they transition over into the older clubs and into the high school clubs. And pre-COVID, we were over 700 players. And can you imagine 700 players plus mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, all the cousins, all at one place, Murray Park, all playing on multiple fields, all at the same time? It was literally a zoo, but the most amazing zoo that you've ever been to. It was great. COVID kind of knocked us back a little bit. Registration numbers across the country are down. But we're seeing that starting to pick back up again. But the Little League has just been phenomenal. And as those players transition into the high school teams, you now see kids that have been playing 4, 5, 6, 7 years before they even get into high school. You must know the quality of our high school teams today.
So you continue to see that level increase. It started for a long time in Utah. We had Highland, then United, and the great work that Colin Puriri and his brothers have done across the state in bringing that level up. Then the rise of clubs like Harriman and West Valley, of course, Genesis. All of these clubs continue to have success at the national level without the expense of the success of the other clubs. So that doesn't mean that these clubs or these programs, these high school teams now they're developing, like the single schools like Olympus and Harriman, they're not losing out on the quality of players, and as these kids come in, I had a chance to work with some of the kids in Highland a couple of years ago. There's a lot of those kids where rugby was their only sport. They didn't want to play football anymore. And it's that type of attitude that I know you saw growing up in South Africa. I've seen it in New Zealand, and it's exciting to have that here. For you and the Youth Foundation, what's next? What's that next step that we can help create as a community for these kids?
Well, the foundation that the Warriors have put together will really just give us a broader reach, right? As a small nonprofit, kind of managing as best as what we can, limited resources, both individuals, finances, all of that kind of stuff. But having a big name like Utah Warriors kind of backing us through the foundation means that we're able to get into more doors that perhaps previously were kind of closed because we were seen as a niche sport, just something that doesn't have broad appeal. But something like the Warriors that's packing a stadium, week after week, every time they play a game, really starts to get attention. They get into the news. And so that then helps us raise our level, which is why I said to Kimball, we need you to be successful, because that then really places us as prominent. So yeah, absolutely. I would love to see our community reach out, support this foundation, provided with the resources, and that in turn will trickle through to us. And so we will then able to offer more opportunities for players, better access to fields, better facilities, etc. And the Warriors Academy is exciting because that means our players get to go and travel, out of state. They get to play against the best in the country. And they get their own opportunities to get into national teams and to be able to participate and play internationally as well.
Well, it's super exciting. Championship Saturday, UtahYouthRugby.org is where you can find out more information. Owen Power, we appreciate the time.
Thank you, Jarom. Appreciate you guys chatting with me for a few minutes.
Awesome. Thank you. Owen Power with the Utah Youth Rugby. Pretty cool what's going to happen. A lid lifter before the Old Glory DC game, which will be awesome. So let's hit in the final moments of the show, a little Rugby 101. So when someone gets tackled, a ruck forms. or the breakdown. So give us a little Rugby 101 on this part of the game.
The breakdown is the general term, of course, that we use for the area in and around the ruck. It's in that tackle area. Now, you can be in the breakdown area and not be involved in the ruck. So basically it starts when a ball carrier and the defender meet and a tackle is made. When they go to the ground, two things have to happen. The ball carrier has to place the ball to be played for his team, and then the opposing tackler has to roll away. It's then, like with everything in rugby, a contest is made for the ball. At every opportunity, there has to be competition for possession. So the opposing players can come across what we call the gate, or the width of the ball carrier's body position. The players have to enter straight in from wherever that ball player's position is and try and clear out the opposing team or the possessing team, and vice versa. So that's where you'll see the players come together over the top of the ball. Lots of times they'll grab on to their player who's on the ground and support them over the top. You'll see players try and clean out and what we call jackal or steal the ball. There's so many different things that can happen in and around the breakdown. But just know that as a tackle occurs, when those ball carriers go to ground, they have to place it. The tackler has to roll away, and then you can either compete for the ball, or you'll see lots of times defenders won't even get close to it. So here you'll see Big Matt Jensen standing over the ball, clearing out his opposition there at number 14. That player is trying to get the ball that's placed on the ground, and Michael Baska standing behind him there, Matt Jensen doing the hard work. This is what your forwards do a lot of times that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. We talk about ruck arrivals. This is what we're talking about in and around the breakdown.
Okay, a little Rugby 101 on the breakdown. That'll do it for us. Like and share this episode of Dub Nation on Facebook and Twitter. Reminder to follow the Utah Warriors on social media and throughout the season on KSL Sports and ESPN 700. For Emily Harker, Brandon Sparks, Owen Power, Billy the producer, and Banksy, I'm Jarom Jordan. We'll see you Saturday night at Zions Bank Stadium. Go Warriors.